No injury, thankfully, and that's why I took a step back because I didn't want to do something silly out there and get injured. So I thought it was best if these girls took over and did the rest of the job.
Come on, man. What are we talking about?
Hello YouTube and welcome back to another episode of Black and White, an opinion-based YouTube channel where we give our black and white opinion on current events.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Tyler's girlfriend. A quick disclaimer before we start our video. The opinions expressed in this video are merely opinions. They are in no way fact, nor are they in any way truth. Again, they are simply our opinions. Now, before we dive into today's content, be sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below by the end of this video expressing your opinion on today's topic. So with that said, let's dive right in. Alright, so today we are having a follow-up discussion on Simone Biles. So if you guys subscribe, you would know that in our last video we talked about Simone Biles and...
I almost say we predicted the future.
We did.
In a sense.
We did.
Because, I mean, people were talking about her, but not really. Not until she quit.
Yeah.
No one was really talking about her. We
Yeah.
made that video like a couple days before that happened.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
pretty interesting how that all unraveled. But
yeah, so we talked about how she came off as a sore loser and then she really showed her true colors early on this week when she pulled herself out of the Olympics. A lot of people were saying because she wasn't going to be scored fairly, which turned out to just be rumors based in no fact at all.
or they thought she was like injured, like physically somehow had an injury that was preventing her from being able to compete.
Exactly, but because she felt like she was not competing her best, instead of taking the L like a lot of us do naturally, she just pulls herself out and says she's not going to compete at all. Because why risk potentially injuring herself, even though walking outside of your front door, you risk potentially injuring yourself. Just breathing, you run the risk of injuring yourself. But whatever the excuse may be, it is what it is, an excuse. So my follow-up comments are, I want to keep it short and sweet because I feel like the topic of Simone Biles has really just been dragged out, and at this point it's like beating a dead horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my main points are, I truly believe that she is a sore winner who does not know how to lose, and I do think there is something in losing or failing or coming up short. There's a sense of humility and definitely an opportunity and an ability to grow from that. And I do think a great quality in the greatest of greatest athletes is the ability to lose gracefully and grow from a loss, which Simone Biles does not have. I think that her pulling out was a selfish decision. I understand that she did qualify for the individual rounds in the Gymnastics Olympics. However, I think that she also was there with her team and she pulled out knowing that she was a part of that team. And I just think that's just so crappy, because being a part of a team, everybody's relying on each other. Being a part of a team, you do have a sense of commitment to your teammates. And she just pulls out last minute because she's not scoring the way she wants to score. And I think that's totally unfair to the rest of her teammates who were not expecting that. But kudos to the rest of her teammates for being incredibly adaptable and incredibly flexible and still making light of a pretty crappy situation. I also don't believe that she should be allowed to compete in any of the further events. I understand she did qualify for them. However, I do believe that pulling yourself out of one event should pretty much pull you out of the entire Olympics, because if she were to compete this coming week, she is going to have a whole week of rest, relaxation, mental, whatever. And she gets to come back and compete with people who've been competing for the past week. And they did not get the luxury of getting to rest and mentally rehabilitate. So I don't think she should be allowed to compete in this coming weeks. events. And the last thing I want to say about it is I find it incredibly suspicious that all of this poor performance comes when she is not allowed to take her ADHD medication, Ritalin. Now, they say that Ritalin is not a performance-enhancing drug, but from what we've seen, you know, if she has been the greatest of all time and performing at a certain standard with her medication, and now she doesn't have her medication and she's not performing at that same standard, then technically speaking, it is a performance-enhancing drug in itself.
ADHD or prescribed for ADHD like Ritalin or Adderall, these are stimulants. I mean, pretty much the definition of a stimulant, the word stimulant, is to raise you.
It is made to increase performance.
So whether that's like studying for a test or writing a paper, or just focusing on a lecture, or, you know, doing the vault in Tokyo. I mean,
really, it's a performance-enhancing drug. You know, I know people that have ADHD and they take Ritalin and they outperform the average person. You know, they say that Ritalin is supposed to make you normal, but it makes you above normal. It doesn't make you the average person, it makes you above the average person. And that's why you have average people that also take Ritalin unprescribed, or maybe they falsify a diagnosis so they can get a prescription to take Ritalin so that they can increase their performance. I mean, it's a common practice thing that's seen time and time again, especially among college students. So for them to say that the drug is not performance enhancing is a stretch, you know. And I mean, I don't think she can be called the greatest of all time if she can only perform at a certain level with medicine.
The truth will speak for itself, because if it ever comes out, if she says, or someone in her camp or around her ever comes out and says that, you know, well, she didn't have her medicine, well, that right there is an admission that it's a performance enhancing drug, because it's an excuse for why she didn't perform.
Exactly.
So it kind of speaks for itself.
Exactly. And I know in today's day and age, we want to be all inclusive of all diagnoses and all whatever the case may be. However, there are people who are diagnosed with ADHD that have received the tools to function just fine in everyday life without taking any kind of medication. So to me, it's bottom line performance enhancing, and I can't call her the greatest of all time if she can't do the same level of athleticism without her medication. I don't know, but those are my last words on it.
Yeah, I think, you know, you pretty much covered, you know, everything involving her decision, and, you know, we pretty much agree 100%. I mean, and my thing is, I don't really, at this point, have much to say about her and her decision. I don't agree with it. It kind of goes back to our first video when we talked about the soccer team, you know, the U.S. Olympic soccer team, women's soccer team kneeling. Mm-hmm. Don't agree with the decision to kneel. Mm-hmm. Don't really think it does anything, but I agree with and I support their right to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. She's an American. She has freedom. If she wants to quit, she can quit anytime she wants. Mm-hmm. I think it's disappointing for her team. It's disappointing for young kids who are looking up to her mm-hmm. as a role model. I don't think that, you know, Ben Shapiro actually said it best, I believe, because on the right and on the left, there's people on the right that are being extremely, I think, too harsh and too cruel, because there is an element of we don't know what she's going through. But we can look at the evidence and what's going on and kind of say that, you know, it doesn't seem like it was all just because of this random, you know, mental issue that was happening, or pressure, mm-hmm. especially when she puts a lot of their own pressure on herself. Anyway, that's a side note. The right's been, not all, but a lot of them have been very harsh, and then on the left, it's this celebratory, you know, you're so courageous, you're so brave for making this decision, and I'm just like, you know, speaking about kids and looking up to her and her being a role model, that does not send a very good message at all. And it embraces quitting. And what I find interesting is that I saw an article that was written, I think it was in the Week. There was an article written, and the title was basically saying that, you know, it was more impressive, her quitting was more impressive than her winning a gold medal. If that were the case, then she would have no gold medals. She would have 0 gold medals and no one would know her name if quitting was more impressive, because that's what you would always seek to do, because that's more impressive. So,
I mean, whatever happened to the far left saying it's not about whether you get gold or silver or bronze, but it's about the fact that you tried. Whatever happened is just giving it your best shot, even if you're not doing great. Even if you're not doing great, it's just giving it your best shot. I guess that's gone out the window. Just gone straight to quitting. Just quit.
Right. And what I was going to say, what Ben Shapiro said is that she's neither a villain or a hero for what she's done. But yet there are a lot of people making her out to be a complete villain or a complete hero. And I agree completely with him. She is neither. But my issue is more with the left-wing media, and just it seems like most of the media in general. I wrote this actually on Twitter. I said we can support her mental health, or supporting her mental health does not require us celebrating her what is a failure. So supporting her health, her life, doesn't mean we have to celebrate her failure. You know, the other thing is she celebrating her failure and celebrating her inability to meet even the own goals that she set for herself is basically, in my opinion, the same thing as praying that she won't succeed. Because do you think she entered the Olympics wanting to quit? You think she showed up there, she put all the time wanting to quit, and then now the media acts as if somehow she needs them to support her, that she needs them to comfort her. You know, where is women empowerment? Where is women are strong, stronger than men? You know, all this talk. If that's the case, well, why does the media even need to come out and celebrate her inability to meet even her own goals? Because, I mean, to me, that's an acknowledgement that they think she's too weak to handle it. And I don't really believe that, you know. I believe she was just having a tough time. She was struggling to perform to her own standards and to everyone else's standards. And whether she didn't have her medicine or the pressure just got too much or she just got too in her own head, she decided to quit. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. She has the right to do that. But I'm not going to sit here and act like that is something that should be celebrated, or that is heroic, or that is brave. Because true bravery and true courage and perseverance is experiencing those things, and despite experiencing them, despite them being, you know, somewhat powerful or having a great influence, you still push through. You still push through, and you still try to achieve your goals. And you may not, but you still try.
Yeah.
And that's the message that I think should really be sent.
Exactly. Exactly. True courage to me is accepting bronze when you know you are capable of gold, and still putting on a great face and congratulating everybody else that did achieve silver or gold.
And the other thing, just the last thing I'll say is, to assume that people are being critical because they just hate Simone Biles. I've seen articles written about how the white supremacy is involved, which is pretty insulting, that somehow it's racial, or to assume that people being critical just hate her, or don't like her, or don't want to see her succeed, or are bigoted, or whatever. That is so misguided. I'm not saying it's not possible, but even if you look at it, this is a sports discussion, you know? Even if you look at it in that arena, coaches, some of the best coaches are the most critical of the people underneath them, because they have to be able to bring out the potential in that person. And they have to be there when that person wants to give in. And they have to know that that person has more. And they have to know the best ways to bring that out. And sometimes that's being critical. Okay, you're coaching. You're saying, hey, you know, you did it this time. This is the correction you need to make, and you'll have a better outcome next time. So people being critical of her, whether they're in the media or whoever it is, to assume that they're just doing it out of hate is so misguided, because we're kind of being critical. But it's because we know what her potential is, and we know what kind of, you know, influence she is, what kind of role model she is, what she represents. And I think that
are we being critical if we hold her to her own standard?
Not really. But my point is that we, a majority of people that follow the Olympics, a majority of the people that believe in this country and really invest in watching the USA team, whatever sport it is, compete in the Olympics, we believe in our competitors. And so the group of people that are being critical, I truly believe it's out of a true feeling of, wanting to have seen her succeed and believing in her and what she's capable of. And when she didn't meet that, it was really disappointing for a lot of people. And then to see people celebrate it, it was pretty, I think, for a lot of people, insulting. And I believe it should be insulting to Simone Biles herself. Because one, I do believe she's a strong woman. So I don't think she needs the media to hold her hand through all this. I don't think she needs that. I think the media believes that somehow they're righteous by, commending her, and saying it's fine, it's fine. I don't believe it's fine even to Simone Biles, to be honest. She did it because she felt like she needed to. No one can be in her head. But the reality of the situation is that, do you think that's what she wanted? Do you think that's what she wanted? No, she wanted gold, she did. She obviously didn't want it enough because she didn't end up quitting. But my point is she's the one that has to deal with this. She did not go there to quit. I know when she got there, she wasn't planning on quitting. I can say that. I think a lot of people believe that it's more likely and maybe more believable that she was, because we saw it, whether it was because of mental issues or it was just because she was, not performing well for whatever reason. She wasn't performing well. And I just feel like because of all the gold medals, because of all the Olympics and all the competitions and the fact that she's the GOAT, the self-proclaimed GOAT, she's talking about how her scores are being lowered to meet everyone else because she's so much greater than them. People are writing stories about how she could beat everyone basically with her hand tied behind her back. Her on her worst day is still better than everyone else. I mean, I thought these things were true. But so I think, but for a lot of people, it's like, I kind of feel this way. I believe more like she just had several bad days and she wasn't performing well, so she was looking for a way out, as opposed to her having mental issues. And she's saying it. I'm talking about pressure. If there's anyone that should have been able to handle the pressure, it's the multi-Olympic gold medal champion. I mean, she's got just as many gold medals as anyone else. I mean, she'd break her back if she put them all on. I really have a hard time believing the reason is because she's facing pressure. She's been in the Olympics how many times? She's competed at a high level how many times? She's always won. I
agree, because I think if it was truly a mental health issue, she wouldn't have gone to Tokyo in the first place. She wouldn't have flown all the way out there and even tried to compete. Like, she withdraws after she gives a poor performance, not before, but the pressure was there before she even went to Tokyo. I mean, the pressure was there when she was qualifying in the trials, and the pressure was there well before even, the Olympics had come back around. So I don't really think it was the pressure in the moment, because there wasn't even a crowd there. There was no crowd. So, like, where was the pressure? I don't think it was the pressure. I think that was just the most tangible excuse to give, the most PR-worthy and the most acceptable excuse to give that would justify her actions without having to really explain anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to sum it all up from my perspective, I hope that she gets through this, whatever it is she's going through. If there is something that she's going through specifically, I hope she lives a very happy, healthy life, whatever she decides to do from this point on.
She's going to be totally fine.
Right.
Again, she's Simone Biles. She can drop out of the Olympics and she still have sponsorships out the butt, and a very successful career spinning off of it. Even if she never did gymnastics again, she would still be a very successful individual.
Right.
She has her own gym. She can, at this point, make the next Olympian. So, good for you, girl. Go get it.
Absolutely.
On that note, though, I do want to say congratulations to Suni Lee for taking gold, because you earned it. Not because Simone Biles did not compete, but because you worked frickin' hard. You rehabilitated an ankle after surgery, which is one of the most difficult injuries to come back from, whether you are an athlete or not, but especially if you're an athlete, and especially if you're a gymnast who, like, the stability of your ankle is super important. So your hard work earned you that goal. Congratulations, girl, because you deserved everything you got this Olympic season. And before we go, I wanted to give a special shout out to Germany's women's Olympic gymnastic team for their full-length leotards. I 250% agree with whatever movement they're trying to pass and whatever statement they're trying to make. I think the sport should be all about the sport and less about sexualizing women's bodies. I think there is no better way as a female to take control of a narrative and control of your own body as the women of Germany have so gracefully and wonderfully have done. I think for the longest time, a lot of, not just women, but a lot of girls have been deterred from the world of gymnastics because, you know, either they or their parent didn't want them running around with their butt hanging out, you know, as a free show for any pedophile that was nearby. But go Germany for wearing long leotards. And honestly, it's not even just about the parents not wanting it. It's like very much the world of gymnastics made these little girls wear these very skimpy leotards and normalize it. And like, even if you were a conservative or a modest person with modest or conservative values, you were not allowed to wear anything that covered up your skin. You know, if you wanted to wear tights, they had to be nude tights, they had to be skin tone tights. It's like they very much pushed showing skin for whatever reason. It's like the more skin you showed, the more points you got. It's such a weird world, but good for Germany for taking their autonomy back and control of their bodies back by wearing full-length leotards. I think they look beautiful. Alright YouTube, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe if you haven't already, and do leave a comment down below sharing your very own opinion. Until next time, our next video, Godspeed.
Seriously though, subscribe.
I will find you. And I will
Grab your finger and hit the subscribe button for you.